terms of Fluoro, like, you know, this, I guess your proposition of like your brand also advertising and content does play massively into that. But the content and the kind of production levels that you guys go to, this isn't just like standard sort of carousel posts, is it? This is like you actually like treat them as like campaigns. They are campaigns themselves.
Yeah, exactly that. Like with the way the world has changed, but the industry hasn't, is every single brand, no matter what size, has to be in constant conversation with their audience. So it no longer is it for the exclusive few to put like a big above the line campaign on TV and stuff. It's like you're constantly engaging with them. Audiences are so sophisticated and building their own little worlds that they want to spend time in. You've got to really talk to them, have really good conversation with them with exciting and interesting content. And with Fluoro, what I want to lean into is everyone else is running away from the word advertising and running towards brand. So you've got all these big ad agencies, like Uncommon's the main one, that are like, we're not an ad agency, we're different. They're basically bringing graphics into what they're doing.
Do you think it's almost became like a little bit of a dirty word in the industry?
100%, yeah. It's people are scared of it, so then they're trying to, and in the way that this often happens, so they're trying to like cover it with something else, and I'm like, let's lean into that. And it sounds wanky, but that's what is new age advertising. Like what we're doing is advertising, but the way we're advertising is basically, I say, brand identity, meaning, you know, vision, values, ethos. That is there. That was almost the customer, let's say, doesn't see that, or your audience or your fans don't see that. That's the foundational work you got to do. Then basically how you set that on fire and bring it to life in the world is your advertising.
Yeah.
But you can't have one or the other. But forever, it's been separate things.
Yeah.
You go to these guys for your identity, and it's this sort of slightly nerdy, sort of more thought through, systematic thing. And then you go to these guys to come up with some crazy, wacky idea. But then the two of them, it's like, how did these two? They are the same.
Welcome back to Sparks TV. Today's guest is one of the most expressive and high energy creatives that I know. This journey takes us from 90s rave culture to founding a new age branding and advertising studio. Today I'm joined by Tim Smith, founder and creative director of Fluoro London, a studio who replaces luxury and glamour with intrigue and attitude. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It sounds so grand when you put it that way, doesn't it? All them bits and bobs. But anyway, we'll get into it.
Are you ready to run the gauntlet?
I'm ready to run the gauntlet, yes.
Oh, let's go. Here we go. Okay. Tim, you're absolutely flying at the top of your game right now, working with clients like Apple, Snoop Dogg, Sky Sports, and the list goes on. But before we get to that, I want to take it right back to the beginning. So let's rewind the clock. What sparked your interest in the world of graphic design and visual culture?
Only now, like in later life, you start thinking about these things, and the answer I used to give everyone of that is like, I had a really boring way into this. Like I was autistic as a kid. I was high energy as a kid. I was sporty. Like if you wanted me to, run until I was sick, I'd do it. If you wanted me to, I'd be up for everything. But like I was probably pretty like overactive, and the one thing that sort of calmed me down was like drawing.
Yeah.
So I love to draw. I love the feedback I get from my grandparents on my pictures and my drawings and everything else like that, which now, as I think about it, obviously inspired me to think I could do something with it. But then, very simply, I would struggle more with like the attention span of the more academic side of school. So I love the artistic side, I love the sports side. And then naturally that sort of went into more of a graphic design, and then it felt like there was a career at the end of that. So I give everyone this very linear, like, well, and then I went to uni and I studied design, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's a deeper thing to it. And as I look back at inspirations and things I was into and things I'd done, I've got a really funny video where my sister wanted me to film her on a camcorder doing like she's super intelligent, super intellectual, academic, Oxford education, all this sort of stuff. Wow. So she wanted to make a video on how the body works when she was about, 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I filmed it for her, and then I done the advert in between. And it was about a man putting on deodorant and then attracting a woman, and basically I got two of her favourite China head dolls, and the attraction was so strong from the deodorant that they got zoomed together like this. But unfortunately, and what actually actually happened is the China heads just blew off. Both
No
of these
way.
dolls. Then you hear my sister screaming in the background. I run off to console her and give her a cuddle, but then come back and do a little cameo of that's how good this deodorant is. But little things like that, like I was always just into, I'd watch adverts and I'd watch them and I'd just think what was wrong with them. I wouldn't be interested in it. I think I could do it better. I'd rewrite them. So there was something of me that wanted to enjoy this short form of advertising and stuff as well, which I didn't really piece together until in later years.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, I'm getting into too much now. And then visually, just which we're going to definitely talk about, like all of the sort of rave culture and all that side of things, like how expressive and visual and exciting that shit is. It's cool.
I love it. That's so cool. I love it. I never knew about this advert that you created where the China dolls' heads exploded. Like, that's absolutely incredible. So before graphic design, were you already quite like around that time as well? Like, you know, you're really into sport, like high energy sort of stuff. Were you always quite into like kind of fashion, apparel, that sort of side of things as well?
Yeah. I say when I was young, I would have said it even more. Like I was never, in my mind, I was never into fashion, and that was basically the where I grew up and this sort of environment I was within, like a working class, you know, background in like, you know, Merseyside type thing. Fashion was this flamboyant, eccentric thing. It was nothing to do with me and my life, but I was always into gear. So I was always into my gear. I always was really particular about what top, and I'd feel great in this, I'd feel great in that. My mum says from like the age of 6 or 7, she couldn't dress me. I wanted to wear what I wanted to wear. I got grief for it in school. Spice Boys would call me because I was always into different gear, and that got me into a few fights. But so I've always been into, my mum will tell you, I've always been into my gear, and I've always liked gear, and that's what I see it as.
Do you remember your first pair of Jordans?
Jordans, I do. Like, what's really funny about this, I was actually on the... we're going to talk about it in a minute, but I was on the documentary about the, you know, creating R.a.d. With the founder and all that sort of stuff. And I said my first pair of Air Jordans because I knew everyone would relate to that. The truth of the matter was they were Challenge Court Agassiz.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
but I just thought people wouldn't get it so much. But now Agassiz having this big moment. But my first ever pair was the Challenge Court Agassi with this sort of yellow stripe across. I convinced my mum and dad to buy them. They're probably over 100 quid at the time, which was mental. So they were basically going to be a Christmas or a birthday present. I knew they bought them when we were on a holiday in our caravan in Wales, and I knew they'd hid them under the bed in their room. So as soon as they went out, if someone went to the toilet, if someone popped outside, whatever it was, I would leg it, I'd go under the bed, I'd get them out, I'd sniff them, and I'd put them back in. I loved it, and I loved them shoes. And time again, every pair I got, they were meaningful to me.
Yeah.
You know? Which is sort of silly and but then also when you think about the background stuff, it was sort of having them things that you weren't meant to have, that made them extra special. And some people would say it's tacky, but I'm like, it's sick, man. It's something you're into, you know?
So, I mean, let's be honest, right? Fresh shoes, fresh out the toaster, straight out of the box, the best smell ever.
Yes, exactly.
So fair play.
Yeah.
Also, I never knew it was the actual Agassiz, and that kind of like makes me think of like, you're quite big into tennis as well. You played tennis at quite a high level growing up as well, right?
Yeah. That was one of my sports. Like I was into many. Mum said if I actually could just stay at one of them, I might have done all right in it. But tennis I used to play. Still play now. And, you know, I enjoyed that. Again, you always come back to this thing of doing the things you shouldn't be doing. None of my mates played tennis. No one played tennis. It was almost like I've always had this like slightly like I want to do what everyone's... I didn't know it was that, but I want to do what people say I shouldn't do.
Quite a singular sort of mindset.
Yeah, and going against like... You know, oh, it's a posh sport. Well, I'm going to go and play that. I'm going to beat them guys doing that.
It's quite unusual, like you're saying, growing up in the north of England and stuff, like probably typically it's like football, maybe rugby.
Yeah.
Like,
footy always footy for us.
Pretty much.
And I did play that as well. But I almost like that thing was so much around me. And I love football. But that thing was so... obvious and around me that it was less interesting to me.
Yeah. So you liked the sort of things that were a bit different.
Yeah. I don't know why, but that was always naturally what I was drawn to. Yeah.
Amazing. So I'm just thinking now as well, like growing up in those kind of early days, like sort of 90s stuff like that. When I think of Fluoro, like I cannot help but also think of MTV.
Yeah.
And that kind of like growing up in the kind of MTV generation and sort of being inspired by that sort of thing. Like, was that also a huge kind of influence on you?
Definitely MTV was. For me, like, in many ways, that almost came a bit later. Like, I don't remember even Sky TV was like, getting Sky TV was like a massive thing. Do you know what I mean? And we had all this sort of, I remember microwaving the cards to make them last longer because the money had run out on them, and putting your box upside down and all these tricks because it was, and we were only allowed certain channels because it's too expensive and stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, I was probably already into like the sort of hardcore rave culture and scene, and obviously the flyers you could get and paste all over your walls, and how expressive and all that them visuals were, and dystopian and futuristic and everything else, and how they basically use concepts to translate an idea and a feeling. But MTV played a part. It come later to me almost than the main inspirations, but its graphical nature as a channel, how like, you know, colourful, I suppose playful it was, that had a big impact, and also to this day stands up as just amazing brand identity work. And what the channel done, and the fact it was bringing a whole new level of like content for a certain audience, was super progressive. And I, like many, spent hours and hours sat there just watching music videos over, which I actually only in recent times have realised how that is almost what I see our role as when we're creating content, is people get sidetracked into like, and caught up by this word narrative and story, and suddenly you've got like marketeers trying to like, can we just lean into that like drug taking thing, and maybe like we've got, I was like, hold on, like, you know, if you got through that now, and it's like, hold on, what? Like, you know, it's not for me personally, but you know what I mean, these like marketeers like trying to find a story, and it's got a beginning and a middle and an end, where I'm like, what, we're creating like short sound bites of content. It's more like a music video. It's tonally, how does it feel? What energy? What does it give off? Like, how can it capture attention? How can it keep you engaged? Like, I see what we do as more of a music video than a film.
Wow.
From that perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. I want to do more about this and think more about this. But that idea of narrative and storytelling is getting misconstrued left, right, and centre, and resulting in brands putting out phony, fake content because they're desperate to stick basically like a formulaic narrative to it. Thing, you know?
It's so true, man. Like, you get the, like, you know, it's like, okay, we've done a big brand identity piece, but actually in most cases it's like, it's a toolkit, a logo, and some colours, and it's like, what does that actually communicate? You need to go the extra kind of mile with the rest of the stuff, right?
By like, heart has been broken so many times when you've spent months and months and months creating this, and this is an interesting point that I'm glad we've got to. Like, you basically, as agencies, brand identity agencies, you create these like fully fledged brand design systems, and they're clever and they're smart and they have a load of value. But you don't get to see it through unless you then continue working with the client. And basically what would break my heart over and over again is you do all this work, and what it come back down to was basically a sort of 30 mil by 30 mil sort of logo in the corner of a screen. And then a few months later, someone would pick up the email and be like, oh, we're ready for a new piece of work now. We love what you did with our logo. And you'd be like, oh, logo. We created you. And the way that brand identity agencies, the big guys that are all struggling to find their place in the world, the way they've got around that is they create these like amazing case studies with like 15 to 30 visuals on one slide, and it's all moving and it's wacky and it's amazing, and even I'm like, that is sick, but no one sees that. It's false. So what I was like, how can we connect these two things so the thing that they see is as thought through, exciting, stimulating, engaging as that brand package in the advertising world? Like, we need to bring them things so the end consumer and the value is really clear, because it's like, and I always, because I've had a few like things of my own and stuff, and I've seen it from that other side as well. It's like, how can you connect them things, and like, how can it also, just from my perspective, how can I feel like I've given you a load of value in your business? And that's where organically this idea of connecting the two things and making it all part of one service.
It is definitely a unique proposition. Like, there isn't many studios around that I can think of that actually do the kind of full end-to-end service. And I think, like, you know, traditionally it is like, okay, let's over-index on like, there's your brand system, gets passed on to an ad agency, and it kind of gets butchered, or it can go off in a different direction. Don't even look at it. It's like they're over-indexing on like consistency and placement of logo, but actually there's no life in that.
You need to bring it where that come from for me is like huge corporations that need it because they got so many comms internally going around, and they need that system, and if it's applied right, it's sick and it's amazing. But also, where's the value added to the external? So like when you want to be consumer facing and want to be working on brands like that, like it's almost like, where's the value?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it's flipping that, and it's like just forgetting about it, and that's so hard for so many agencies to do.
Love it. So I'm just going to circle back a little bit to this MTV thing. Is there any music videos from the kind of 90s or noughties that you can remember just off the top of your head?
Oof, I mean, unfortunately, the ones that actually come to me was my GCSE revision years, and it's all of your sort of your Nelly and your R&B and all this sort of stuff coming through. You know, definitely there would have been some like later on Tupac stuff and things like that. Like that was the first time where I'd sort of seen music visualized.
Yeah.
And it's corny as hell now thinking back at it, but what it was doing was creating like, again, I'm going to keep saying this, but it was creating a mood and an energy to back the song up.
Yeah.
You know, I think where it lacked or where it was less interesting, and this is a bit of a problem in like America and the UK, is like always relying on people.
Yeah.
Whereas like I always say when I visit, and I used to have to go to Geneva a fair bit, or when I'm over in Switzerland and stuff. Still to this day, of course, I'm a massive fan of all the old purveyors of type and Swiss design and stuff, but still they use like graphics and shapes and symbols and graphic packs and stuff like that to tell stories. And that's sick and sophisticated and smart. We rely on images of people dead behind the eyes to tell everything, and it's just not it. But
anyway. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I love that. I mean, the Swiss design, the Swiss posters. I think we were at was it Zurich for R.a.d. Stag Do? Years ago. I remember like some of the posters that we saw there was like it's like a mad cricket or like a bumblebee with like some mental type. And it was just like this mashup of different things.
So thought-provoking. It's it's just trusting the audience to like look and question it and think into it and read into it.
Make the link themselves.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
love that.
And leave it up to interpretation of the viewer. For sure.
That's like trust the audience to kind of gravitate to it and capture that feeling.
And it's playful. It's encouraging you to play with it. Like, look at me, work it out, think about it, and then suddenly, like that's a bit like that's engagement. Like it's this, and this other thing for Ad World is about like exposure. It should be about engagement.
Yeah,
seeing something, recognizing it isn't enough, and isn't enough to actually be compelled to buy into it or like it or anything like that.
Do you think this taps back into your kind of like attitude and intrigue sort of narrative?
100%.
Yeah. I love that. I was just thinking there about some music videos that pop into my head initially, and like you're saying, it is always kind of maybe cheesy references but I always remember the White Stripes, black and red triangle one, like the repeat.
Always reference it, yeah. It's
always remember that
single graphic motif straight through.
That infinite sort of loop sort of thing.
It's amazing.
And another one that came into my mind was actually remember Missy Elliott, like
she spit,
her neck like starts stretching and stuff.
She spits on something, doesn't she? And it follows the globule spit lines.
I think it's that one.
That's sick. Also, I was thinking about the Mad Max one. That's the first one to come into my head. Is that Tupac and Dr. Dre?
Oh, I can't remember. I think this was maybe slightly.
Yeah, that's because
that must have been early 90s or. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a sick video. We'll have to look into who was in that.
I always just remember, like, growing up though, I just always remember having like MTV or whatever music channel. It was just always on in the background. So it was just always kind of looping. But
yeah, exactly, same. And that's how you'd learn your music and everything. It was fun. There was also there was the Wu-Tang one, the videos, Gravel Pit, that was a sick video.
Oh, yeah.
And Eminem, he used to make loads, and with D12, like, they would all be really, playful, fun, like, thinking just beyond the obvious. Like, that was when music videos started getting good. They'd done some amazing stuff that.
I guess Eminem, branding wise, he really became a sort of brand himself, right? Like
he was amazing, he is amazing, and like a massive I got into him big time when I was that age, and then like I remember going to an interview for Loughborough University, and they mugged me off from every angle because they were expecting this like elitist, and they said, "So what is it is your reading?" And I was very honest with them, and I was like, I'm not reading it at the moment. I'm loving this book all about Eminem, and they literally laughed at me and looked at one another, and they made a fool of me. And I come out of there, and I remember years later my dad being like, "I felt for you that day," but
wow.
But they, now I look at it now in hindsight, I was like, fuck you, I was listening to fucking a massive moment in culture, a person who changed, that sort of stuff. But it was like they were so short-sighted and like elitist in their background and stuff.
Your answer is actually such a great answer as well.
And
It's
honest.
so much more honest and relevant versus
yeah.
like, I'm looking at like a book of gridded
Yeah.
which is cool, but it's like that's
Yeah.
actually tapping into your actual personality.
And culture and like things that are going on in like here now, like artists of their time,
That's amazing. I was just thinking there, last year we went to the Fontaines DC gig, the Fontaines, what was it, the Kneecap as well.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to you as well, I was like, for some reason, when I also think of Fluoro, I think of the Prodigy.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember what you said?
Well, we didn't tell you the first story about the first time I ever listened to them, did I? In my mate's bedroom.
Go ahead.
Because I had David Lovelady, my little mate up the road, 2 doors down, and he stuck them on in his bedroom. He said, listen to these. And I was like, what is this? And then he showed me a picture of Keith. And I was like, oh my God, he's like scary. Like he's going to come to me in my dreams. And my mate was like, do you know he donates money to charity, he said. And I was like, what? I just couldn't understand how this guy who looked like some sort of like vicious alien to me at the time as a young kid was actually a nice bloke who donated to charity. I didn't understand punk.
That contrast, that sort of like as well. I think I read as well that somewhere that like off stage persona, like in real life, he's like the charity stuff.
Yeah,
he's also
bloke,
he's into like gardening and just a quiet life. But like when you see his look, like that's such an iconic sort of visceral visual look, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to think like, is there any other kind of front man or front person or whatever that's got a more iconic look than him?
Yeah, and the strongest and that sort of dichotomy or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. But and he is punk in every sense,
As well, when I was doing a bit of research for this and like looking into the Prodigy again, like I think that must have been an unusual mashup of like punk and electronic dance.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any. Were they the first sort of break?
In my like knowledge, it was basically a few bands have managed to take electronic onto that. Well, there was for a few years, electronic took over everything, but it was much more in a sort of less hardcore way, earlier than that as well. But yeah, I think they brought them two worlds together 100% in a cool way, yeah.
Now that we've officially got the party started, we're in the kind of music space, we've touched on a bit of the background, the kind of rave culture and stuff like that. Let's jump into the first project. I think this is the perfect moment to do that. So I remember us catching Ed a while back, I think it was like last year or something, and I was like, just catching up, Ed, how's Fluoro going? And you know what he's like. He was like
sorry.
You didn't, it's all right.
Sorry.
He didn't say too much, and then he was like, oh, actually, there's a DJ from Dundee who's making big waves in the sort of hard dance scene, and we're looking at their branding work for their kind of production, their events company and their record label.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no way. And then, like, fast forward a few months, I'm like scrolling down Instagram, and bam.
Stay in school, 'cause it's the best. Fade away, fade away, fade away.
Mate, that project's mega. So how did it come about? And like, was there an existing sort of identity there already, or was it like a brand from scratch, or like how did it kind of unfold?
So so it was a bit like almost all of the planets aligned a bit, because at the end of every year, or even halfway through the year, we get together and we're like, what do we want to do? Like, and you're sort of trying to set up what is you missing in your folio? What is it you really want to get your teeth stuck into? And every single year, it's like, we just want a music project. We want to do something in music. We just don't have, as you know yourself, a lot of it's about contacts and who you already know in there to give you your fair shot.
Yeah.
And we've never really been able to build any bridges to get in there, and then without the work to show, etc., etc. So it was really, shout out to Ben King, who's a designer who was freelancing every now and again with us. And I think he works in the music world as an independent designer in that world and creative. And I think Doof came to him and the project was like more than he could handle, or they were looking for a studio, not an individual. And he, fair play to him, he passed it on. Which is sick. Yeah.
Amazing.
So he passed it in to us. Doof, so Hannah Laing, Dundee DJ, and she had basically already had the label Doof, had
Yeah.
already done some festivals and loads of parties and everything else like that, and was just like, I just like think from an identity, creative direction perspective, I want to take it to the next level,
Yeah,
to be something new. But what I loved about the serendipity nature of this whole thing is she's pioneering in what they refer to as like hard dance.
Yeah.
And the reason she's into that is because she had parents that had her when they were young, and they were mad hard house
Yeah, the
heads.
ravers, yeah.
So basically, when I was in uni, I was going out to Sunday Central, Eddie Halliwell, Tidy Boys, Lisa Lashes. That's what her mum and dad were listening to when they were
Amazing.
into. So they were going to the same raves I was going to, and they brought her up on it. So
Yeah.
she's been so her homeschooling of music was hard house, which is
class.
sick. And as a genre, it's disappeared a bit over the last few years, and there was always something of it that I feel like had been lost. But it's almost like working with Doof and Hannah and the guys has
Yeah.
made me realise it had been lost, in that the sort of techno and harder scene in music now. It's sick. I'm part of it. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm not slagging it off, but there is at the fringes of it, it's almost so too cool for school.
Yes.
Everyone's in the queue, they're not talking to each other. It's all about what party you're at, who knows what party you're at, who you're into. And like, but there's something about hard house which was just get down there. The crowd was so diverse when we used to be into it when we were younger. Like everyone from every background, from the lads from the pub to the Sunday Central, crazy kids with all the spiky hair and everything. It was just about going and having the time of your life.
Yeah.
There was no pretentiousness whatsoever with doing it. And then she's almost like, I love that music, I love that scene, and I care deeply and passionately about music, and I'm super serious about my music, but I want people to come and enjoy it no matter who they are or what they're into.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a much more open-armed and like getting rid of all that pretentiousness and just cool music to enjoy.
I absolutely love her story in terms of like her kind of parents were ravers and she grew up on it, and like she started making waves, but she was like a kind of dental nurse as well.
Yeah.
Like she was kind of doing both, like really pushing it hard with both, and then eventually she's global now.
Yeah.
She's like touring all over the world.
Yeah. And she's just supporting other artists. She's built a recording studio in her hometown to help youngsters get into it and everything else like that. So it was an amazing culmination. I've not talked anything about the work yet, but that's where it started and where it came from for me was so cool because of that,
I love it. Okay, so let's dive into some of the work then. So in terms of maybe there's some initial elements there, like you've got like maybe something to kind of grasp onto, but like how did that process look like in terms of really giving it the kind of Fluoro treatment?
So I think they had established a cult following, and they have their fans, which are the most important people to every single business. Do you know what I mean? So they had them guys and they built it, and they were very respectful of that. So Hannah and sort of Josh and the team were like, look, we this is us. We've created this on the fly, like Gorilla. We've created this, and they love it. And there's people with tattoos all over them and everything. So the first thing was like really just digging into what it was about that was making it like connect to the audience. Because like I often say this, and this is where good and bad brand strategy come into it. What brand strategist on earth like would ever look at something and just disregard it when it's doing well? And it happens all the time because they want to put their entire spin on something. And it's like, you've got to basically look at it, look at what's good, look at what you can bring forward and what you can bring through, and then look at what's not so good.
I love that in terms of like removing the ego.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, there is some good stuff to leverage here.
Yeah, for sure.
But you want to maximize it and add this sort of other stuff to it as well.
Yeah, and it's like cheesy words, but evolution. Like, do you know what I mean? You got to take all that good stuff. You got to work out what the good stuff is. You got to look. We were digging deep into all like the pictures of the people at the festivals, at the gigs, like the tattoos they get and what they're, all that sort of stuff, and just trying to find the little threads that were super. And obviously, Hannah has real strong ideas.
Yeah.
What was interesting as a project, we finally landed it in music. And then our natural thing is just go sick on like progressive music, visual, boof, you know?
Yeah.
But to be fair, and this is where Hannah would like pull us back a bit, it's like you then get sucked into this trap of like music design. Because there's a vibe there and there's a whole thing there. And I love it and I react to it as a designer, as a creative. But she was right in that then it just starts looking like another music brand when it gets so edgy and cool and trendy. So it was almost like, so it was pairing back on that sort of stuff, and really honing into who they are. And in a weird way, as a consumer-facing brand, with other areas where you're trying to sell a product. Often it's like, how do we turn this into a broad world that's like experimental and exciting? Whereas with this, the music, the gig, the venue, you're already in a world.
Yeah.
So you've got the tunes, you've got the lighting shows, you've got the VFX, you've got the crowd. Like all that is like the most expressive world you can ever be in.
Yeah, yeah.
So in a weird way, the brand you then create to talk to people externally, you really need to hone in and almost make it tighter.
You want to offset that a bit.
Yeah. And you can't be too broad because you've got to be super tight with it. But specifically, you know, Hannah's sort of signature ponytail, which they were already using, they had like an icon which was very inspired, we think, by sort of Tidy Boys and the Tidy Tracks sort of iconography.
Ah, cool.
But her ponytail was ace. So we knew we wanted to keep that. But we wanted to bring a bit more of what she talked about in that sort of like fun, open arms, expressive thing. So the first thing we done with the mark was basically we made, it sounds corny, but we made it dance. We stuck it in programs and it was ballooning and reforming and shaping. And we looked at like old skate stuff and all sorts of like expressive things like that. And we just started giving some energy and motion to this thing until the shapes and forms it started to take on felt like something more like engaging and interesting and human.
Yeah, yeah. Was there a sort of thing with the kind of logo type from before? It was like using Euro style, which is kind of 90s rave reference, but it was kind of evolved. That was part of the evolution, right?
Yeah, for sure. And again, another thing that Hannah would talk about was like, I don't ever want to look like I'm just redoing Hard House. That's my inspiration and it's got me here, but I want to be my own thing.
The most current version of it,
yeah, exactly. And the Euro style is so iconic. Font that I'm so familiar with from when I was young and stuff. But it was very much like what you'd call a pastiche.
Yeah.
So it was like, how can we now take some of the sort of fundamental like sort of visual cues from this, bring it forward. We talked about the word onomatopoeic.
Yeah, doof.
Can't say it. Yeah, doof. That's what doof is. So we were like, if doof is onomatopoeic for the baseline bosh, then how can we make that visually onomatopoeic? So how can the visual? So we've done the same with the doof. Some of the earlier experimentations, I think we put them up on Brand Identity. Like we doofed it. We stuck it into Touch Designer, which is like DJing with code, and we hit it with a bass and seeing what reacted to it.
Did you put a banging donk on it?
We stuck a banging donk on it, yeah, exactly. Exactly. But and then at first it was mental, we loved it, we were playing with it, and then we sort of then worked that back and honed in on that and stuff. And with a bit of Hannah, we did that because she was like, wow, guys, you've gone mad here.
I absolutely love it. Like, you know, the kind of thing you were saying with the avatar and the ponytail, like her look is so iconic, and that's such a nice link.
Yeah.
In terms of those like proper like dark moody sort of textures, they kind of like, what were they built in? Were they kind of like,
that was all Touch Designer as well. Again, and it was, we said to them guys like, we'll do anything to get hold of some of your stage visuals. It's something we've been desperate to do. Because a lot of our other work for in other places has been using, you know, Touch Designer, which is, like I said before, it's like DJing with code. And it's like, it's so intuitive. It's like, for me, it's like a sort of program it sits in between this world of design and art. Because we actually experience this with Apple. Sometimes you can't recreate the same thing again.
No.
Which is hard when you're showing something to a client and they like it, and you can't recreate that exact thing again. So if you were to change something, so but what it does mean is you just got to move things, you got to play with things. And I'm not doing this; it's the guys in the team doing it. But they're just like, they're turning things up and down. They're DJing with code, and things are changing on screen. And we really wanted to bring their identity through onto the visuals, you know, in that world.
I think like I absolutely love that. I think like something I noticed with Fluoro generally is like you guys do seem quite kind of hell bent on staying right at the bleeding edge of kind of tech and implementation. So like, was there not like a massive kind of warehouse kind of event launch in Liverpool? Like, and it had all the integrated visuals.
They their first sort of big party after we'd done the work, which we'd done the stage visuals for, was in the big arena. They had a really interesting system where it was like 4 different sort of big crosshatch screens that run right across the entire venue. I think it was the biggest gig they'd done outside of the festival.
Wow.
And it was a big, amazing show. And with that was where it got to come to life for the first time.
Amazing. So Doof in the park. 4th of July. Camperdown Park, Dundee. My old stomping ground. Are you heading up?
Yes, the plan is to go. We need to get that sorted. But that is definitely somewhere where we should all be going.
Okay, let's dive into the world of Fluoro. So in episode 1, Eddie kind of touched on this now infamous pub night where you guys met up to kind of chat about the idea of starting a studio back in the day. So what was your kind of take on those events at that time?
So Eddie had worked with me previously as like coming as a junior in a previous agency, and like we'd got on really well.
Yeah.
But I also massively respected what he could do.
Did you clock his talent quite early doors? Like,
Yeah, day one. I still remember the cover. He'd done it as a Twitter cover for a magazine,
Really?
and he wasn't an illustrator, but he just sort of done an illustration for it, and
Yeah.
he just got it. It was
Next
sick.
level.
Yeah, it was sick. It was awesome, and I think he was amazing skill, craft, and also there was something of me and my personality that I thought could help like elevate him and what he could do.
yeah.
You know, so I think there was a nice little relationship there, and we stayed friends and everything else. Him and his dad and his brother played at my wedding.
The Wells.
The Wells reunion. And that, you know, I'm friends with all of them guys. But yeah, so when he had left the other company, and then I was wanting to start up Fluoro. The joke I tell everyone is, I said to Ed, do you want to come and get involved? And he said, I tell you what, mate, I'll stay here in my cushy little job. You go away and take all the risk. And then when you got a few clients, give me a shout and I'll come and help you out.
Yeah.
So I had set it up already. But he had said, you know, once you've got enough work, give me a shout, which is fair enough. And then I said, let's go to pub. I think it's that time to have a chat.
Yeah, because around that time as well, he was like, oh, I want to buy a house. Oh, I might move to New York.
That was it. He was going to move to New York.
There was quite a lot of different things going on all at this same time as you were doing this, right?
Yeah, in fact, that was a thing that he was like, he might not have even got involved because he was still waiting to hear back from something in New York, and he was thinking about the move. So that I forgot about that.
This is all way before COVID and stuff. He was like kind of like up for moving out there, right?
Yeah, it's mad to think back. But the pub, we went to a boozer in Dalston, and we started having a few pints. And I was just like, look, this is where we're at, this is work. I've got like, you can get involved. And I remember a good few pints in, and I've gone to the bar, and I've said to the barman, I said, mate, is them pints strong? Because I'm feeling fucking pissed here, my head's spinning. And he said, yours aren't, but your mates are like 5.8 or 6.8%.
6.7.
Yeah, 6.7. So I'm turned around and I look at Eddie, and he's sat there, and I was like, fucking hell. We went to grab a bit of a chicken shawarma next door, and I remember like I was eating my food, and Eddie's just like, "Where's my food? Where's my food?" And eventually, you know, he's so polite, I'd never say anything. Eventually, I stood and I said to the geezer, "Where's his food?"
Yeah.
And the geezer went, "He didn't order any." I was like, "Eddie, you haven't ordered any?" He says, "Yeah, I have. I started going through his wallet and all that, and see if he made any payments. He hadn't made a penny. He hadn't ordered any food. So we got outside, and I'm like, mate, how are you getting home? He said, my bike. I was like, you are not getting on your bike. I was like, there's no way in the world you're getting on your bike now. So I've got my phone out, and I'm sort of swaying, like getting an XL Uber that he can put his bike in. I turn around, he's gone.
What?
There's just like a little cloud of smoke, and I was like, oh shit. And I was just like, finally convinced him to join the company, and he's going to wind up dead on some street.
He's in the canal, the Dalston Canal.
Yeah, but he made it home, luckily enough.
Oh, what a guy. Oh man, Eddie, what a guy. He's such a character, Ed.
Yeah, he's a ledge.
Oh,
but that's how it came about, and then he got involved, and that was us done, yeah.
So, oh mate, I love this. This is so cool. It's cool to see this snapshot. So when you kind of took that risk in those kind of initial days where it was kind of you were flying solo for a bit, what did that look like kind of work-wise? Was it kind of like just, let me just find my feet, or did you have this kind of bigger vision of like where you want to take it and stuff?
I think I probably, I knew what I wanted to do. I had like done a bit of my reading and research of studios I liked and how they came about and how they come together. I'd spent my time previously just understanding the sort of working sides of business and stuff like that. As a partner and director of another studio. So I think it was, I knew that I wanted to be a studio. I remember so I would take on projects on my own, and I'd just take on the full thing. I was like, I'll deliver this. Because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what they want. And what I knew was like, with like a good leadership on a project who's going to like put the heart and soul into it, because I care very much about the work. I can pull together a team to deliver something awesome. I remember like early days when I think it was just me, Eddie, and Grace maybe. And we had a good friend of both of ours, really good web designer, and he sort of joked and said like, I'm just going to call myself a studio and get one, mate. and then on the second breath, I said to him, mate, I've got a bit more digital work your way. Will you take it on? And he was like, oh, I don't do that. And I was like, that's the difference.
Yes.
You're a freelancer who's honing in on the thing that you're amazing at and you love, and you're delivering it.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you wanted to be a studio, you've got to take on a bigger, broader thing. He didn't even want to entertain. This thing is not my thing.
Wow.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
But that is the difference. So this idea of like, you're only a studio if you're so many people.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're a studio if you're willing to take on the bigger piece of work, which always starts with strategy.
Yeah.
And then in our case, as much as possible, always ends with delivering it. Obviously, some studios just do the strategy and direction.
Yes.
So I was behaving and acting like a studio, even when it was just me.
Yeah.
And at first, another thing I'd done, which was painful at the time, but I was like, I'm learning from my experience previously, to add value to your company, you need me to sit in there and work with you. So I'd get a brand identity project and I'd come into their studio, I'd sit with them for a week, get my head around them, what they're doing, learning from them. And I was like, right, now I know you and understand you, I'm going to go away and deliver an amazing project.
Amazing.
But I was just like, just get rid of all this, like, oh, you come to us and get our vision and then we can send it. I was just like, get in the mix.
That immersion phase, like really kind of finding the kind of deeper meaning behind what they're actually doing.
Yeah, and the thing I say with any good project is reducing the time between idea and execution.
Yeah.
And also basically just like creating an environment where basically you can make them, the client or the person, the individual, the group, whatever, the team, feel really comfortable with you.
See, going back to that concept and execution thing, I think that really kind of links back to what you were saying at the start with the kind of full circle package with Fluoro, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's not just the kind of foundational invisible layers that the consumers don't actually see. It's like you need to kind of dial into the actual execution side just as much.
But, there's two things I'll say on that. There's a John Hegarty quote, which I love, which is good work is 80% concept, 80% execution,
Nice.
which is great. Another thing, Virgil said something, because he was like, a consultant doesn't do any work. It doesn't do anything. Like, it's nothing until you've created it. If until you've made it, it's nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, that doesn't mean there's no value to a consultant, but like, you've not made anything until you've made it. He has a really good thing, and I can never find it online, because he's obviously trained as an architect. But it was just like that idea that there's, again, coming back to this idea of like dirty words and things you don't want to admit to, and it's this idea that the production company has no creativity. They just roll out someone else's vision. Well, how about you come up with a vision and roll it out, and then you've got craft and vision. And for me, vision and craft is basically concept execution.
Yes, I love that, mate. I love that. That's so cool. I think I'm just thinking there, right? Like, there's so many like studios, and I'm not like trying to say anything here, but it's just like you'll do the brand work. It's just living as a PDF.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't never see the light of day, really. And then, like you're saying earlier as well, like these studios will do 15 mock-ups that don't exist.
Yeah.
And it's all shiny and looks cool, but what is that?
What is it? Yeah, they're creating a really good case study.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean the work's not good. It's just like there's still like a whole level of like super smart individuals with skills to apply it, roll it out, understand it, you know?
Yeah. So I think we're going to just jump into a bit of a R.a.d masterclass, but before we do that, because I think we can, like, R.a.d is such an amazing case study for you guys. Like, it's not just a case study, actually. It's like you've been on this growth journey as a growth partner for many years, from kind of inception to where it is now.
Yeah.
But before we do that, there's something I've always been meaning to ask. It's a bit random, but so we gave Ed a bit of a shout out. We've mentioned Grace, who's like absolutely awesome, been there from very early days as well.
She came in, it's just as she'd graduated. I think we found Folio and DNA Day, and she's amazing.
It was in the kind of, was it when you were in Brick Lane, right?
Yeah,
it was down the Truman sort of brewery.
Yeah.
I mean, and Grace has been there and kind of developed all the way through to senior now. And
she's one of our main creators. She's amazing, yeah.
And I think it's always like, I think within every studio, like a lot of the time, it's like the creatives get a lot of the credit. Rightly so, they put their heart and soul into it, but there's always sort of like unsung heroes within a studio as well. Is there any unsung heroes that just like are such a vital part of what Fluoro's kind of became in this journey?
Yeah, I think you know, I do all these just talking about, you know, all the vision and amazing things and this, that and the other, and it sounds often like you're taking all the credit. One thing I always say is that probably my best skill is finding good people to do amazing stuff. Them guys are the ones that are doing it all. And creating an environment where they can flourish and do their best stuff is the best thing I can do to get the amazing results.
Yeah.
But also, you know, the management and running of the projects is vital. Also, the relationship between design and accounts, whatever you want to call it, design, project management, basically that sort of relationship is a very tricky thing to navigate because, and I've had loads of problems with this myself, previous places and stuff, where you feel at odds with one another when really you need to be like in it together. You're literally holding the same shield and the same sword, you've got to be in it. And then Sophie, who's, the head of all that side of things for us and partner in the business, and we worked together previously, and she was one person who from the off like respected what the creative side of the business does and left them to do their thing,
do the magic.
But guides, drives, leads, manages, and basically just adds value and professionalism to everything that we can do to get the best work out of it. And people like that can create a relationship like that and an environment like that are very, very hard to come by. When she left previous company, I said to her, the first thing I said was, as soon as I can afford you, I'm getting you. And I had to like create a way in which we could get hold of Soph. And as soon as we did, our business turned into a proper business, which has potential to grow, potential to succeed, and to keep delivering at the high level that we want to deliver at. So that's a real vital play in any team. And for us specifically, Soph and Ed were two people that I'd pinned from the off to basically be part of this team.
Amazing. Shout out to Soph.
Yeah, shout out to Soph.
So how many years now has Fluoro actually been going since that kind of initial sort of like pub night to now? Is it like, how many years?
I think it's like 7 or 8.
Is it?
It's mad. Yeah, it come up on my LinkedIn the other day, which is how I know. It's been like 8 years. I think we'd been going for about only a year or a year and a half, and then we hit COVID.
Oh, wow.
Because I always say like the business stagnated but stayed level through COVID, which was actually a great result because a lot of
that must have
went
been
down.
tough to
Yeah,
actually...
that's hard.
Whoa.
I think we were lucky enough to be so small that we could get through. But yeah, I think it's been about 8 years. Yeah.
So that's amazing. One of the biggest and most impressive case studies that you guys have been involved with, this kind of growth partner journey, is with R.a.d.
Yeah.
The performance footwear and kind of CrossFit kind of sector brand.
Yeah.
Which, you've been there since inception. So I think what we'll do is we're going to do a bit of a kind of R.a.d masterclass. So I'm going to pass over the reins to Tim, and Tim is going to kind of run through that growth journey, what that's looked like, and kind of like funny kind of moments along the way.
Yeah.
And we'll do a bit of a deep dive.
Something about a shoe and the form that really draws me in.
From a very early age, I was obsessed with shoes. I remember my first ever pair of Jordans, begging my mum and dad to buy me these shoes. We bought them when we were in our caravan in Wales, but I wasn't allowed them until my birthday. Every time they went out, I'd run into the bedroom, I'd go under the bed, I'd get them on, I'd sniff them, and then I'd put them back and go off again.
I had this kind of obsession from quite a young age with shoes. I would always save all my money to buy trainers.
So I met Ben, probably going back it was about a year and a half before R.a.d launched, or maybe even 2 years before R.a.d launched. Ben basically had a gym. He'd sold his gym. He had some money. He was hell-bent on creating his own brand.
Yeah.
He wanted to create a shoe, but at that point didn't know even if that was at all possible.
Yeah.
So he had been told to come and speak to me about a brand.
Right.
So what was very different about him was he was often I have to convince the person how important brand is, and how meaningful it is, and how having your sort of ethos and vision and values established and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas he was like, even before we get near knowing what product we're going to make, I know we need to have a compelling story and brand story.
That's quite rare for a sort of entrepreneur type or creative entrepreneur type to kind of have that vision from early doors, right?
Completely different. And honestly, can't comment on everything, but right now in this landscape and the world that we're in, I think it's imperative. No longer can you blag it or fake it. You've got to love, live and breathe the business you're creating.
Yeah.
Which he did. And we sort of spent a year and a half, developing who we were, what we stood for, changing stuff, thinking about stuff, like changing the entire proposition at one point, like working it out. We had a room in our studio in Brick Lane at the time, just full of pictures and stickouts and what we were creating apparel lines, working on shoes. We were road testing it. Like we went to such an extent before we even knew if we were going to be able to make a shoe.
Wow.
Because he just knew that that's what we needed. And it was that basically it was that then took us to get an amazing shoe designer on the team.
Wow. So it's all that foundational work again, that kind of preparation before you launch.
Before we launched, before we had Ben had got more investment, he basically was like, right, we need to establish who we are as a brand. Then we need to find an amazing shoe designer. So he'd had an email with a shoe designer in Portland, Tom, who was ex-head of the kitchen at Nike, they call it.
Wow.
So head of innovation.
Yeah.
Tom, understandably, has been like, who are these two weirdos from the UK? Sent him an email and just said, I'm too busy, speak to me in 6 months. So I'd ruled that out and was trying to line up other people and meet other people. Ben, and the way he is, was like, I'm getting this guy.
He was just set on it.
Yeah, so unbeknown to me, 6 months almost to the day later, Ben was like, let's get that, week out, let's get that deck finalised. We're going to Portland.
What, just like impromptu, sort of like we're going to turn up? And
He told him we were on a meeting, he'd agreed to a meeting, but he thought it was going to be like a Zoom from the UK. But Ben's like, we're knocking on the door.
That's amazing.
So where we were, it's like, got the flight, flew over, got to Portland, knocked on the door. Tom pitched the whole idea to him, and as soon as the meeting was done, he's like, I'm in.
So he kind of bought into that sort of compelling story. But again, that foundational stuff, if you did turn up without that in the bag,
and they wouldn't have had
there's
any
no
interest. Yeah, because he's, everyone's getting constantly peppered by the newest startup, a new idea, and like within 4.5 seconds, you realize it's financially, the only drive is financial. Whereas with this, it was very clear that there was a much bigger sort of idea.
I can't imagine how, like, obviously super competitive landscape, like how hard it is to actually make something from zero to success.
Yeah.
So what has that sort of growth journey looked like? As a bit of a snapshot in the sort of like, was it 6 or 7 years ago sort of the journey started?
Well, yeah, but I think it's about 4 or 5 now.
Okay.
But it was
wow.
So we had them. So then the company, last time we looked into this, R.a.d is the fastest growing performance footwear company in the world.
Wow.
We have to stick a big banging donk of an asterisk on that because we can't find every single stat in existence.
Yeah.
So the official line is one of the, but I don't like saying one of the because we cannot find anyone growing at speed.
Wow.
Hoka and On at the time when we done this research, Hoka and On were growing to 300 to 500% less than we were.
Really?
Obviously, them guys, shout out credit where it's due. They've paved the way for new brands coming into the space and proving you can do it from a performance perspective.
Yeah.
But just to show how the way this business is going, it's insane.
Yeah.
So that's crazy, and it's crazy success. And the thing that's given me all of my confidence, Fluoro's confidence in like this offer that we sort of are putting out to the world is this is like road tested from nothing to the fastest growing performance footwear company in the world.
Do you think part of the success is that it was sort of like a bit of a niche avenue in terms of the CrossFit lane, in terms of like this kind of, like run culture recently is really booming, right?
Yeah.
But they're typically more just like general running shoes and stuff like that. But this was more of a CrossFit specific sort of thing. Right?
Yeah, you've got to, with any business, you've got to really hone in on your niche.
Yeah.
The opportunity here, Ben was an ex-CrossFit athlete and had a CrossFit gym and loves and breathes the industry. Knew exactly what he wanted in a product, and also like is the advocate for it and had a network. But you've got to find your niche. You've got to start somewhere. You've got to get those fans. And honestly, to this day, we still don't lean into digital marketing or anything like that. It's all word of mouth. It's all people talking. The tricky thing is you go into a massive sector like that straight off the bat with running, and there's a lot of it's messy, it's busy, there's loads there.
Yeah.
So the CrossFit angle was amazing. Also CrossFit being like, some people disagree, but being the apex of that gym world means that you can then span into the wider gym space.
Yeah.
It's very odd to go up, but you can sort of come across and broaden something like that. So that was unintentionally, intentionally, who knows, super savvy.
Yeah.
Because the CrossFit world is a community strong community. They like stuff that's new and interesting and exciting, and there's space for stuff that's new, interesting, exciting.
Do you know what's so funny about you saying the word of mouth thing? So I was doing some F45 stuff, the classes like last year, and that's a little bit kind of CrossFit inspired, sort of stuff. So the trainers there are really into that world, right?
Yeah.
But I was wearing the R.A.d ones, and the trainer came up to me, he was like, "R.A.ds." And then he was like, oh, and then he was chatting about the brand and stuff, right? And then the next 2 weeks later, I went in, he was like, I've just bought two new pairs, one for me, one for my missus.
Amazing.
And he bought like the new running shoes with the kind of different colorways on the sole and stuff. So it was like but I think that interaction probably spurred him on to then go and buy 2 more.
And also 100%, and also the nature, this sounds like so obvious, but it really isn't. The nature of how the business was launched was only make what you can sell.
Yeah.
Which, if you said this to a caveman, they'd be like, of course, you only make what you can sell, but that is not how the industry operates.
Really?
Big brands, to control production, they make far more shoes than they're ever going to sell, because it means they can get the economies of scale down, they can control the entities, they can control the production, and they're basically throwing away half of their stock. But it's but that also meant it unintentionally created demand, because they sold out fast.
I was going to say, so is that part of the kind of the launching model? It's like, okay, you launch them at certain times, or you build the hype, and it's like a release date, and it's like capped and stuff.
It was and it was never to like create hype. It was just to not have wastage. It was just make as many as you can sell, and then do a new colorway, and then sell them. And it was almost like we first and foremost, you have to predict how much you might sell, and you might sell nothing, so you've got to keep it low and sensible. Also, you've got minimum orders that you need to make with the the industrial side of things, and the manufacturers. So it was never to create hype, but what happened in turn was it created hype, because things from the first drop sold out instantly.
Wow.
So it was mental. But then that then makes you look at like what I call lifestyle brands and businesses, and that for me is just a much more sustainable way of creating product. Yeah,
and there was that kind of serendipity moment where that kind of caught fire just because of the sort of natural people gravitating towards it sort of thing.
Yeah, someone said, which I always say, like a lady said that we brought colour and creativity to an industry that didn't have any.
Yeah, nice.
At the time, when the discussion me and Ben had was exactly that, because we didn't talk about training, we didn't talk about CrossFit, we didn't talk about weights, we talked about stuff we were into.
Yeah.
We talked about streetwear, I hate even using that word, but brands, artists, musicians, all that sort of stuff. And then you looked at what the big companies were doing in this space, and it was super dark, grungy, live to train, sort of everything was dark, muscles popping. It was there was just nothing.
There was no sense of personality, or colour or warmth or
none of that. Yeah. We were saying but we believe we're into skate culture, we're into this, we're into that, we're into the other. So's our audience.
Yeah.
So why doesn't it exist? It just felt obvious.
Yeah.
So it was do it because you think it's cool and because you love it, and it's like that idea people buy from other people's passions.
Yes.
It's put your passion into it, make sure that comes across, and then see if people jump on.
It's similar to what we were saying earlier about the kind of Swiss design posters, where that intrigue, you trust in people to kind of get it.
Yeah. And your audience are the people that are going to get it and are going to buy into it. And that's the only way, because I say it's a big sale, right? And we had one investor guy we spoke to early days, and we were pitching it into him, and he sort of, he said, how much is your shoe? And I said, 120. He says, how much is Nike? I said, 120. He says, I buy Nike. And I was like, that person with that attitude is not, first of all, was not the right person.
No.
But also, the people you're asking to buy your shoe aren't buying it rationally, they're buying it emotionally.
Yeah.
Because you're saying this shoe that's been used by every single top athlete in the world ever is the same price.
Yeah.
So of course, rationally, you're buying that shoe.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is emotionally, what we're saying as a brand, what we stand for, our values, our ethos.
Yeah.
If you buy into that, then maybe you would be the person to take a risk on this.
See, that's so cool. Going back to that little moment in the gym where that guy came up to me. If I was wearing Nikes or Adidas, that would never be an icebreaker.
No. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No talking point.
It really stands out, and it's it is an icebreaker, but it kind of connects people as well.
Yeah.
Which is all kind of connected by that sort of community thing as
little
well.
sign, if you know type thing.
Yeah.
A little community, and they're all byproducts. Yeah.
Should we look at some kind of key stats in terms of what actually this looks like in terms of the fastest growing footwear?
Yeah. I mean, it's the fastest growing footwear company with that big banging donk I mentioned before. It really interestingly, the split of sales is 50 female, 50 male.
Wow.
Which is very unusual in this space.
Yeah.
As if you think about the brands in this space are predominantly male,
Yeah.
and the sort of the reaction to that has been female-only brands.
Right.
Whereas no one trades like that, and that's not intentional. Like from our perspective, we've never tried to do anything specific, and that's probably why it's good, because it's not, doing anything falsely.
Yeah.
But I think basically it's more evocative, it's more emotive, it's more expressive, and an amazing byproduct of that is that we're getting equal split of who's buying it.
That's really interesting.
Which is cool. 5 times revenue growth in the first 2 years, 98% sell through with zero discounting.
Wow.
So again, I talk about models like the old fashioned retail model of you buy big, you advertise a small amount of it, and then you sell what's left in sale.
Right.
Like, how can we just get rid of that aspect of it and just buy small, sell small, and keep growing? And now the numbers we're doing are still huge.
America, UK, is it?
I think it might change now, but I think still more or less the same. 60% USA.
Oh,
so it's
really?
always going to be like a USA first mentality because the sport's so big over there and the opportunity's so big over there.
Wow.
With that sort of London, UK sort of culture mixed in there.
Yeah.
30% UK and then 10% rest of the world.
Super cool.
Yeah, stats I really care about, I joke about, but there's at least 8 people who've got R.A.d tattoos on them. This is mental.
How cool is that?
Amazing.
So it's that kind of cult sort of following again?
Yeah, people have been so into it that they've decided to get it tattooed on them, which is just nuts.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's cool. And yeah, a big thing I talk about a lot is basically the difference between fans and consumers. It's this point I made earlier about it's not a rational decision, it's an emotional one.
Yes.
And if you think about a football fan, they probably know a few games into the season more or less where they're going to end up at the end of the season, but they're going to passionately fight to the death for their team. True. And tell them they're the best and argue their case and argue their corner because they're reacting emotionally, not rationally.
So yeah, we've kind of chatted earlier about, the difference between concept and execution, the sort of John Hegarty quote, 80% concept, 80% execution.
Yeah.
You do need those foundational kind of levels, your toolkit, your kind of brand guidelines, etc. But brand expression is often overlooked by lots of brands.
Yeah.
And you fundamentally believe that brand expression is really where the kind of magic happens, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's everyone now, more or less every single business in the world knows now they need an identity.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to need some sort of guidelines to help them sort of roll out that identity. And again, it's like that value added thing. And we know we need that, but the most overlooked thing is the expression. It probably has all sorts of different terms. It doesn't have to be called your expression, your creative direction, whatever you want to do. But it's like beyond that set of tools that you've just given me and the way I can use them, like how do we bring our brand to life?
Yeah.
So it's your tone of voice, your visual tone of voice, your energy, it's your like visual landscape, it's how you capture motion, it's how you capture stills, it's how you use illustration. It's basically just having a big, I talked the other day, like, the ridiculous and stupid and pointless sort of way of doing things. Like we're going to do a physical exhibition. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint this in our brand color and stick our logos all over it.
Yeah.
Like what, as a human being walking into an overly branded space, what does it does you recoil?
It's cold, isn't it?
It's cold, it's branded, you feel like you're being sold to. It's the most horrible experience you could ever give someone.
Yeah.
So how is that a representation of your brand just because it looks like your identity?
Yeah.
Whereas when that gets interesting, you say, okay, you're not allowed to use our colour, you're not allowed to use our logo. What are you then going to do to that space? So you start thinking, well, maybe you have some sustainability properties, so should we use some sustainable materials? Maybe you're just really into interior design and you really love the way a walnut works alongside some stone with some corrugated aluminium. And like then you're then building a space which represents your brand. And that is powerful. And you're creating a space that people want to be in, a place that people want to spend time in. And it's a visual representation of your brand without just slapping your logo and colour all over it.
They feel it rather than just seeing the signposting of it.
Exactly. And it's like, you go to a festival, a sick festival, and you have the best time of your life is because there's an energy and a vibe and the thing. But you go to one that's just like got like alcohol brands everywhere and it's horrible, So it's just like, just think about, just get away from this idea of like, just like the 3 R's, we used to call it like, repetition, recognition, reputation.
Ah, nice.
And just this idea, just blanket it everywhere. People will recognize it and they'll buy into it.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
will you?
Yeah.
If it doesn't say something that you're interested in, you're not going to buy into it. Like, that is a complete falsified,
Yeah.
idea or concept. It's basically, how does it feel? What the feeling do you get from it? And what sort of experience that you have within there should be a reflection of your brand.
Yeah, that's like the kind of 0-calorie meal version of branding, isn't it? You just, just leaves you
Easiest
empty.
thing. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're close to wrapping up in terms of like we're close to wrapping up. I think I love this story that you told at the Brain Station thing last year, where you went over to Joshua Tree to shoot this campaign, which looked unbelievable. The production level on that is insane. But looking at you look at the end product and you're like, wow, this is like such a shiny, awesome result. But how did it actually unfold in terms of like bringing that all together? Like,
that was fun. It was a big moment at the end of the year. R.a.d's been flying, doing so well, and Ben was like, let's do something like amazing. He just loved this idea. It's his idea to go to Joshua Tree. And we have this whole thread running through the brand of this idea of solar punk. And I'm not going to get too deep into it now, but it's just this idea of you can depict the world. So if you think about all of the films and movies and things in culture that have depicted this cyberpunk existence, so it's like tall skyscrapers, electricity, like, holograms. Like, if you think like that's how we've depicted the future, and that's what we've ended up building, and that's what we're living now. When you look outside your door, and actually it's not that good. We're ruining the world. So it's like, we're not for any reason or anything, and no one ever knows this externally. Are we trying to say that we're helping the environment by making shoes or whatever? But what we're saying is, as a business, as a brand, if we can be inspired by a future which is more harnessing the resources of the world and more of a solar punk existence. Nice. June is a great example of solar punk versus cyberpunk. The way like the Fopters and stuff, like the way that they don't use like oil and stuff to fly and all of that stuff like that. Anyway, but if you can depict that, then maybe people will start thinking about it differently. And also, I just say this thing about like, if like Nike's culture will be like some hoodies sat outside a corner shop, and it's like, is that the best we can offer to our kids? But can you make like a crazy sparse environment sick? So that was what got me excited about this idea of going to Joshua Tree and the Invisible House, and basically this idea that we actually ran a camp there for the athletes pre-season sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
But we were like, let's capture that like a sort of ensemble story. Like, we're bringing these heroes together, and you'd never know where they get to, but they end up driving through Joshua Tree in like Sherps and all that. So we had like multiple Sherps, we had motorbikes, we had this invisible house, we had a team, we had a snake wrangler, snake bitch she called herself, her name, and captured a rattlesnake right by the door we were in. Jesus. It was nuts. But this place is like hot 363 days a year sort of thing, and it was beautiful. The day before we'd done the recce, it was looking amazing. I flew in late and they showed me the pictures, and I was like, God, I could shoot this thing on my phone. It'd be amazing. Yeah. Woke up, pitch black grey skies. The biggest, we were driving in these like big 4x4s, and it was literally like lightning storms rattling off the ground. It pissed with rain all day.
Oh my God.
All day. We shot what we could. I was literally drenched. We were all drenched. We got what we could, and then we had to just extend it into the next day to try and get some more.
So see, when like this happens, like it's unbelievable. Just like, you can't believe that this has happened. Yeah. It's like there's a lot riding on it, and it's like you've only got a short window to capture it, right? What's kind of going through your mind?
I mean, I was like inside stressing like mad, because we're there and we've got all the athletes there, we've got all the teams there, we've got all these outfits, months and months of planning. And they're just the effect it has on. Part of me was like, could we make this sick, and could we lean into the moodiness and the darkness? But it just didn't translate to the story in the time of year that we were telling. So we were shooting all day. We were like, everyone was like really rolling up their sleeves and trying to get what we could, and we did get some stuff. But what we had to do was basically just extend our time there into the following morning, and then basically try and capture 12 hours worth of content in a few hours.
Wow.
So we had to be super like sharp on what we were going to get that following day, and just like, and be as clever as we could on the day itself and what we could get out of it.
So you had to adapt, be nimble, be quick.
And this is where the likes of, we mentioned Sophie earlier, also all the R.a.d team needed massive shout out there, and guys are involved in all this and do loads of amazing stuff, production teams, all that sort of stuff, and having Sophie on the day. But it was literally like, we've got to recreate this entire thing, but for tomorrow. And with a limited team, limited talent, all that sort of thing. And it's we've had another situation like this where this was actually in the UK where we had a big shoot and there was a problem with power.
Yeah.
And I've seen a bit of a kerfuffle going on. Everything seemed to get sorted because I'm like trying to direct this thing. And later on, I said to one of the guys, I said, what was going on back there? And he said, well, obviously we kept this away from you. But he said the power went down. But the way to fix it was the electric guys, the team, Sparks, basically hooked up to the entire power from this whole town and controlled their power. So we put the whole town's power back on just so we could finish our shoot and give them power and then sort it out at the end. And I was just like, this stuff that people do is amazing. And it's having the right people in place, Sophie, in this instance, from our perspective and other people, to basically just turn this stuff around and get it going and get months worth of work compiled into like a few hours and stuff.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
That's incredible.
It's fun, but it turned out good. I mean, equally, you know, there's things we couldn't do.
Yeah,
which I know about, but no one else.
Yeah,
did.
but the show must go on.
Yeah,
you must
exactly.
you have to adapt and just capture what. I mean, I'm just thinking there, like, so it was only that one day where the kind of thunder lightning. The next day it was back to sunny. What if it wasn't? Like,
it was one day, and it was one day, and we only had one day of the entire shoot to capture everything.
Wow.
Luckily enough, we could move things, drag things, and the weather turned out in the morning.
What were those sort of with Sherps? Were they the big crazy sort of Mad Max sort of?
Yeah.
They're insane.
Yeah, they're mad. They're sort of recovery. I mean, sort of dark. They're recovery vehicles, so they can drive through water on land. Another little interesting story, like the Sherps that we'd booked like 6 months in advance.
Yeah.
The driver phoned us and said a little bit of a problem because there's only so many Sherps in the world, and everyone who owns one has to be on the military call up.
Oh wow!
They got called up because of what was going on in Ukraine.
Oh God!
And the Sherps basically got called up, and they're like, "Your Sherps have gone."
Oh no!
And then they had to sort out all the Sherps.
So many moving parts here. Jeez. I mean, I remember seeing that one come up on my feed as well again, and like this like epic journey like through the kind of Joshua Tree, through the desert and all the cactus and all that, and then this bit at the end where it's like the sound effect of like the eagle or the hawk. I absolutely love that bit. Just that little sign off at the end.
Yeah, and that's another thing we haven't even touched on today, but soundscapes, and like we've got teams building out that sort of stuff, and like how important that is in your content now. But
yeah, so all those layers and like tying it off and like, putting those kind of like those little final touches on it again, like kind of completing that full circle of the kind of end-to-end delivery that you guys do.
Every single bit of it's got to be considered and awesome.
Tim, it's been unbelievable, mate. Thanks so much for doing this. I know you're super, super busy, so thank you so much for coming today, and it's been an absolute blast, so thanks so much.
Mate, thank you very much for having me. I think things like this, I always say people buy from other people's passions, and the fact you're just doing this, and I know why you're doing this purely for a love of the industry and love of talking to people and getting this stuff out there, is why I wanted to come and do it with you, and it's, good luck with it all.
We're going to end on a quick lightning round, which is just quick, impulsive answers. Don't overthink it. It's just this or that. First question, branding or advertising?
Branding.
Twix or double decker?
Oh, Twix with little salted caramel bits in it. Double decker, sorry mate.
Double decker?
No, I'm just apologising.
Oh, you're
to the double
apologising
deckers.
to the
I don't want
double
to feel bad. They've been a long part of my life.
Adidas or Reebok?
Oh, shoo. This is so controversial because Reebok had done so many things back in the day, and then now I've completely and utterly just flopped. So I've got to give it to Adidas for longevity.
Oh, wow. Name a fashion brand that we should be checking out.
I'm going to give you two. One which I've been into for a long time but is now hitting the heights is Willy Javaria. Mm-hmm. So what he's doing and has been doing amazingly well is now hitting the heights. Adidas have collabed with him recently. Nice. Been into him for a long time. Or 123 is another one. Nice. Sick, especially anyone who's into graphics, graphic design. They have this whole line of their stuff which is super like experimental. Love their stuff.
Tennis or snowboarding?
Snowboarding.
What's the key to being a good creative director?
Seeing and harnessing talent.
Nice, love that. Last one, Oasis or the Smiths?
I've got to give it to the Smiths for integrity, but feeling and emotion, you got to give it to Oasis. That's a fucking fence, innit?
So is it Smiths or Oasis? What we said?
Who are we going to give that to? I mean, let's say Oasis have had more of an impact on people's lives.
Give it up for Oasis, making their TV debut with Supersonic.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.